I will make sure that I will one up that too.
Excellent, excellent. I want 2 hours a day.
Real dude.
All right. Absolutely. Everybody, thanks for hanging out in the lobby. We're all running just a minute or three behind today, so we'll let all the AIs get connected. And it looks like we had a rather we get a light load today, Ben. Usually there's a couple of dozen of these guys. We might actually we have to let Daniel in. Um,
No, I kick him out. Me too.
by the way, Ben, I noticed I'm seeing more pinks and purples as hues in your ever growing what is that virus you've got on the back wall there?
Well, the lights match my mood. I'm feeling very cheery today, if you can't tell.
Yeah, it's like whoever invented the mood ring, that guy should be a millionaire or a billionaire by now.
Or the pet rock.
Uh, yeah, Pet Rock. Pet Rock was a good one. Pet Rock was a good one. But it's sort of like, how do you stop, I'll say, a foreign adversary from copying your great ideas? That's the hard part. How's that intellectual property stay in your hands when it's a piece of stone with googly eyes?
Great question.
I agree, David. Yeah, that's it's in there. It's funny. Sam, if you genuinely got here organically that way, I'm glad to hear it because we for those of you who've been around for a while, we tried a number of different other social media platforms or whatever you want to call them to try to make this space, and we just never got any traction. And then we started doing these office hours, and then we did it expanded into Discord, and we've gotten some regular flyers in there, so we appreciate that.
The safe space.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Sam. Safe space. Have you been watching too much Sesame Street or something? Gentlemen, good morning or afternoon. Thanks for joining. We really appreciate it. We always do. Um, I see a couple of new names I haven't seen before. This is our office hours. We try to get a little technical and answer any questions you have outstanding. And usually it's a pretty low rent kind of thing. We try to keep this easy and relaxed. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to shout out and interrupt. Um, we don't have a lot on our agenda today. Usually I like to, mention what's been changing in the platform. Um, we never go into code freeze, but our developers have been doing some stuff in the background that is going to, you're going to see a bunch of changes after the first of the month, I think, some minor polishes and things. A lot of our efforts are going recently into the new Frankfurt, Germany data center. So we finished up our GDPR certification, and we had some partners that wanted a footprint there for all the, I'd say, value that GDPR and that sort of stuff presents. And the Frankfurt data center turned out to be the right one for the decision because it was literally had the most stringent security controls in Europe, and that's saying something. They are a step above and beyond. Um, so if anybody has any questions about getting into that space, or if you have clients that have those sorts of needs, absolutely reach out to your account manager. It is well, a teenage. It absolutely is a it is a different process. The interface will look very much the same. You'll get the same performance and all of that, but getting in there, it is a different setup. And we're even going to add a nice little flag. So when you log in, you'll see your name at the bottom left. You'll know which data center you're operating in. So visual cues have their place. Um, as a quick shout out, hello, Tina. Thanks for joining. At the top, we just sort of said, hey, we keep this informal. If you have any questions, shout out. We got a pretty light crew today, so I'm not sure how much we're going to get. Yes, and good morning. Absolutely. Um, at CMMC, Eric, I love you, brother, but that's like, yeah, that's a lift. It's like GCC or GCC high. There's nobody in that space that does any kind of monitoring because it is incredibly hard, one, to do all the paperwork and jump through the hoops to get in there. And that is an annual audit that is very not cheap. And two, mechanically, it's a completely different animal. You basically have to reinvent everything. So that's where we're headed with that. Um,
I think
again,
it's
this is
still on
sort
the
of a
roadmap though, right?
100% no. And actually, I got some. some verbal commitments from senior leadership that there's going to be
Mm,
some people tasked and focused on that in the coming months. So
yeah.
what we can get out of there, like every API, is sort of we're going to find out, but the investigation is ongoing, and we're going down that pipe. So good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Top of mind. Anybody have any questions? Enrique, you always have questions.
I feel like I haven't seen you guys in months. Good
I
morning.
know.
Good
Yeah,
morning
we
still.
went on vacation. Yeah.
So,
Enrique, good to see you again. How can we help you, brother?
thank you. So, question, there might be a rule already within Respond. We had a user the other day have I'm guessing his password was compromised because the first factor, the first level of authentication was yes. And then I imagine it failed on the MFA from what I saw on the logs.
Mhm.
So I know today, if they would have logged in successfully, it meets all the criteria, Respond would have kicked in.
Mhm.
Here, it got me to thinking it's a very important step that, or a very important need to be alerted about it, because obviously his credentials up to the password are compromised. So that should automatically, I would think, maybe block the user to force him to change the password. Not
You
sure if we
could
have
build a
something in
rule.
Respond for that.
MFA
Ben, I don't,
fatigue.
yeah,
Well, this is
I'm thinking,
pre-MFA.
well, I'm sorry. So just to be clear, we had a successful username and password,
Mm-hmm.
got through the first mode, then it's conditional access MFA, and you had an MFA failure, Enrique, is that correct?
Mm.
Correct. They did not pass MFA. They were not able to
Right,
log in successfully because of MFA.
right.
But that led
Uh,
me to think, wait a minute, well, this guy's password and email's known already. So this has
Mm-hmm.
to be
Yes,
changed.
exactly. And I think that's, I think setting and the rule, I might stack some criteria or make multiple MFA failures, and that would lead to Ben's existing rule that talks about MFA fatigue, because everybody's going to fat finger or time out on their phone and have an
Well,
MFA
but
failure once.
from Russia or China or something like that.
Not
So
exactly
exactly.
stacking those criteria. So if I saw Enrique at successfully logging in from Uzbekistan, um, Tajikistan, Pakistan, then I know that's
Mm-hmm.
probably not normal behavior. But if he has a successful login and MFA fails, that's at least three or four different
Correct
identifiable
criteria.
points. Yeah, criteria that are going to tell me that isn't you, Enrique. So yeah, you
And
could build
then
a rule out easily.
can we block it and create force to change, or how can we automate the steps?
Mhm.
So it'll be very transparent. He needs to log back in, but it's going to force him to change his password.
Well, actually, that point, because his existing valid password is out in the wild, we'd want to block sign in and get an engineer involved. So the engineer would then get your client on the phone and say, you know what, our automation kicked you out, kick the bad guys out. That's the token plus expire account logins. The second step was to block sign in, and that's where we've arrived. So even if that end user is sitting typing along, all of a sudden he gets kicked out and he goes to try and log back in and he can't, he's going to pick up the phone and call you guys, open a ticket. Or if you're, ahead of the game enough, you're lucky enough, you're going to call him and say, hey, by the way, we just kicked you out. Automation did what it was supposed to. And now let's get you logged back in. So now that I've got an engineer in real time, goes into Microsoft, unlocks that account, says log in. One of the other things that we do with that automated rule, Enrique, is throw the flag that forces that user to change his password. The engineer never knows what it is, but when the engineer says, okay, go ahead and log in, the guy uses his old password, is forced to put in a new password, and now that bad guy has gone to a lot of effort to get that data that is useless.
Now, is there any way to automate, not have an
100%, Ben.
engineer?
So yeah.
Stopping and blocking and locking, yes. Unlocking, we built a platform to not do that.
Hey
That was
Anthony,
the
is
decision.
your is anybody
Yeah,
else's
your mic.
your microphone's acting funky?
I thought he was just mad at me, Ben. He started talking like Darth Vader or something.
Apologies. Let me know if that gets any better, gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah, it's better.
So, Enrique, the automation can stop all of that activity and throw the flag that's going to force that user to change his password.
Correct.
Our platform does not automatically unlock. That was a security choice we made early on. So that's
Okay,
when,
but
yeah,
everything will be set just to need to unblock.
yep, exactly. Yeah. So your tier one guy picks up the phone, calls your client, says, hey, I've got you online. I want you to go log in. I'm going to unlock this now. And then
Perfect.
watches that happen.
Is that
So
Ben something we have already, or do we need to create?
There's an existing rule that's very similar to that. Ben sort of mentioned at the top the MFA fatigue. You could
Yeah, we have
absolutely
that.
tweak that. Yeah. Then I would say, um, depending on if you wanted to make another one based on that rule, clone that off and say add in the outside approved location, or if it's a known bad actor country. I don't think anybody on this call has a lot of people logging in from North Korea.
No, and
So
we would dare to say anything outside the US or Mexico, depending. Some
yeah,
customers US and Mexico, some
exactly,
customers just US. And if we
exactly.
get failures, too bad. Because lately we've been seeing a lot of I Microsoft IPs, your database is tagging from England and other places. So something's going on that end, but we'd rather deal with that than the other thing was this. I think this is a critical alert, and it did not open up a ticket, I think.
Um, yeah, if you that's non-standard behavior for sure. If you can capture that, Enrique, let us know. Let our support guys know, and we'll take a look at that.
I will, thanks.
Very good.
So
Go ahead.
can I
no, I was gonna
jump?
go to manage Ben over here. And
Well, yeah, so let me show you one thing first before we move on from your original discussion. Okay. So one of the things that you could do, if it's always a conditional access violation that you're running into, correct?
this is the first time I run into this.
Okay.
And it was an employee of mine in one other company. And I'm like, dude, your credentials. He's, oh, you have a super strict password. And I'm like, well, your super strict password got stolen.
You could do this. So there is in the conditional access violation, it basically says that um, auth method is password, succeeded is false, but if it was successful, it wouldn't show it. So I mean, like, it's basically you could do something where it says conditional access violation, and then in the description details, auth method is password. That would probably be effective enough for you to detect a conditional access policy blocking because of a password failure. But you also want to see if MFA failed too, correct?
Well, that we have taken care of with your different bands
Okay.
that we have. So here, again, it's the first time I saw it, and I'm like, wait a minute. So how many times? Maybe it had never happened, but how many times could this happen? To me, that's just as bad because they already broke in wherever they might be using those same credential sets, email and password. Their bad actors already have it. So that's a must.
I would look under the conditional access violation event and look under description details. If you can find where that happened, that you should be able to filter off of some of that that's in the details. I don't know if we have anything in here that has that. I don't think we have any conditional access policies set up on this environment.
No, I know, but I don't think we do in our test environment.
Would this be part of Manage Ben?
Yeah. If you,
It's managed
yeah, we
SaaS
can.
alerts, Enrique. It's not managed
Correct.
Ben.
Well, Ben is our leader.
We could
Ben is the
definitely
thought leader in
something
this
up
space.
something for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, that's what I've told a couple of partners that if it's something that you want us to monitor for you that's kind of more custom to you, we don't have a problem doing that. You just need to let us know, and I will let our team know what the reaction would be. Ideally, setting the response actions to already fire would be preferable. But if there's something, a special instruction, we can try to accommodate you.
Excellent. Enrique, any other questions before I move on?
Nope, I'm pulling up that alert to try and see what happened,
Right on.
how it works.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the chat, Sam asked a very good question, and this is not the first time. So, and I actually have a new improved answer for you, Sam. So the question was, sometimes when I see Microsoft reporting an email forwarding rule has been created, it tells me the forwarding rule name and the destination is some GUID type garbage string. It's about 4,200 characters long, and that's useless. That isn't. So here's our challenge. Microsoft does not publish that cleanly. Microsoft tells us, hey, Logan set up a forwarding rule. We have to go then query Logan's account within MS Graph and look at all of the rules and then parse out those GUID strings into readable text. And that is sometimes we don't get clean data from Microsoft. Everybody knows this. So that's why, Sam, sometimes you'll see that. I'll have either 2 GUID strings or 1 GUID string or a couple of readable bits of text and some garbage. So that's been the answer for the last couple of years. Now, here's the good news. One of our lead engineers who's really excellent at this stuff in this part of Microsoft, he's wrapped up his other projects, and this is his focus in Q4, is not only to make those all clean and readable, but to put in an enhancement that would do a read of every account and every existing mailbox rule, and then we can monitor for changes and alert on those or push those into respond for automation. So that's levels of complexity that we didn't have before, and it is not a light lift, but I know this guy, you're going to be very happy with the results. So look for a new report coming soon to the SaaS Alerts platform near you, probably in the spring. Yeah, it is fun news, Sam. Yeah, I agree. This is something we've wanted to do for a long time. It's just been a very large lift, and I had to get the right engineers in the right space without a bunch of other people knocking on their door to give them time and brain bandwidth to do this. So that is look for a report, and that's what the distillation will be, was a report that can show you maybe during prospecting. Hey, Mario, he has these 10 rules, and Amr, he has these 10 rules, and Stephen, he has these 2 rules, and then you'll have visibility of that and be able to track for changes and everything else. So. Got a bunch of late bloomers joining in here, Ben. I don't know why. It's apparently it was like you and I. So, for those of us who are just joining, Ben and Logan and I all jumped in like 10 seconds before this meeting started. We were all very busy. So thanks for asking that, Sam. Great questions. Enrique asked a good question. Sam asked a good question. Anybody else have any questions about Respond or Fortify? What's bouncing around your brain pans, gentlemen and ladies?
Yeah, Anthony, I have a question. I'm actually Ben. I remember when we were discussing the breach that we had the other week.
Yeah.
I was going to basically make the rule that in such an event we will actually block the user, and the user will actually have to be forced to change their login information, whatever it might be. Yeah, re-authenticate everything. But my question is, because all these events are based out of outside approved location, and help me understand here. When I know these are events, different events, this is IAM events, then we have a file events, and I'm getting very much of these events on a daily basis from users. They're changing files, for example. So if I trigger this particular rule that it will block the user from specifically outside approved location, how do you specify it when the location is actually the proper location? I'm trying to understand where is the setup. Is it in the Microsoft portal that you have to specify, or is it at the SaaS alerts they have to specify that this is the location?
Yep.
Mario.
This is another way, because for example, this is Nigeria, right? So for sure this is Nigeria.
Right.
True.
What Ben is showing you here is in the organizations setup. So when you first onboarded your client, You said they exist in the United States. And for the most of the folks on this call, the United States and Canada is going to be that answer. But if you know that you have a whole bunch of people in the company that also work in Mexico and Canada, that's sort of the appropriate way to do this. Or the People's Democratic Republic. Yeah, no, we would not want to do that. One of these days, Ben, we're going to get a use case for that, and I'll have to stop throwing them under the bus. So that is where you set it for an entire company. Now, of course, if you have a single user that is a regular traveler to other countries, you could do this. Santa Lucia, yeah, like I would rather be there, Ben. You can do that at a company level or again at an individual user basis. Now, that is going to the way we built the alerting engine, alert for any activity happening outside of those locations. And you can see here that Ben's about to take Adam Tech and allow him to log in from Andorra, my favorite. But a quick reminder, if you make a change at the company, at the user level, it overwrites the company. So yeah, I'd have to put the United States back in. So the logic is this. If you have that team in the Philippines that supports your servers in France, I would put Philippines and France in here, but not the United States. That way, they wouldn't ever be able to log into the United States without alerting. Oh, Ben, don't even put IP ranges in there. That just makes me angry. I want to smack you. But yeah, you can't do IP whitelisting. We just don't see a lot of people doing it because it can make the platform more noisy. Now, back to your challenge, Mario. Microsoft traditionally would report on keeping all of your clients' data inside of their country. So usually inside the United States or Canada. And recently that changed. So Microsoft now stores your client's data wherever Microsoft wants. And today that could be in the Netherlands. And tomorrow it could be in Japan. Their spreadsheets might be in Spain. And their Word docs might be in Virginia. So we have no control of this, but now you have visibility of what Microsoft's doing in the background. So in order to make this quieter and deal with this, Ben's going to show you how to quiet down file noises without affecting IAM events.
Yeah,
So Ben, you want to walk them through this?
well, so there's a couple of ways you can do it, Mario. So if you do set up a rule similar to this, this is just looking for that one, the sign in from outside approved. It'll ignore all those file events. So this one right here would basically cut through some of the noise, but you're still going to get like the global events.
This one at the hour.
Yeah,
This one at the hour.
exactly.
Yeah, and then the next one's
Sorry, Enrique, I went ahead and muted you there. Looks like
But anyway, there's a couple of ways you can go about removing that noise. I don't like any of them, but there is a fix coming eventually, and there's a couple of ways that you can do it. You could come into analysis and say that, I'm tired of seeing all these file events, and I want them to go away, at least temporarily, until a fix can come out. And if that's the case, what I would encourage people to do is just to say, hey, let's just temporarily suppress these. Let's do it for all organizations, and let's do it for the next 100 days. Hopefully by then, we'll have something a little bit more concrete, a little bit more usable. Alternatively, there's a video that I do have on our YouTube that walks you through going through and changing these outside down to a low, but that comes with risk, because if it's not a Microsoft or a Google product, you've now silenced any sort of other third-party SaaS programs that you may have that can use this, which includes all these, which, like I said, I'm not a huge fan. It's up to you. It's is it an acceptable risk?
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I definitely, especially after what
Yes.
happened.
Exactly right. I wouldn't either, but it is an option. We've had, especially people in Europe, this could be stupid loud, and it causes a lot of problems because it's very easy to go from one country to another, especially there. And with the US, it's annoying, especially for people on the border countries. But honestly prefer the suppression just because it kind of suppresses the file events, which they're all well and good to have, but I'm honestly more concerned about this sign-in event.
That's my main concern. I don't even worry about those file tabs. That's all right. I'm getting not as much, but throughout the day, maybe you.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's not a problem.
I think with the new product, with the new filtering or whitelisting method will be is, I'm hoping it'll have scheduling, but at the base level, we want to be able to say this particular ASN is okay for this like organization. So anything from Microsoft, I'm not so concerned about it. It doesn't stop you from making rules that say if someone signs in from a Microsoft IP address, starts enabling, disabling MFA or wiping out or deleting a whole bunch of files, you could still alert on it, but it's going to do wonders for just quieting down that file event.
And it just, when you talk about this, I mean, can you suppress the IP, it says IP address owner and it says Microsoft Corporation?
Yeah,
can you
that's what
suppress those alerts?
Not currently, but that's what this will do.
Exactly, Mario. That's the level of granularity that the new alerting engine is going to give you.
Yeah, sorry. That's what the ASN is. Basically, it's the company that essentially owns the IP address, which 9 times out of 10, I mean, there's a lot of instances where the IP addresses change hands, but that's typically, it's updated at least a lot more frequently than like geolocation is. So it's very effective, and you can pretty much, if you ever go to any of our our threat feed, you can look up the ASN of most every IP address, and it's typically pretty spot on. Like I am running on my provider's Lumos, and so it'll show that. And so it's and this is also one of those filterable things too that you could make, and that's why one of those rules that we have set up. You could come in here and you could say that I want to see file events from outside approved location. And I want to see all these file events that are downloaded, but I don't want to know if it's a Microsoft one. So it does not contain Microsoft. So now instead of going IP address range by range by range, you've said anything Microsoft owned, don't care about. So.
Okay.
But what does that do? Does that suppress any alerts coming out of Microsoft or whatever you put in the value there?
No, that's a good question, and one that has definitely been asked. Does respond work in the opposite way of suppressing it? Yeah. No, unfortunately not. What you would do is in this instance, you would say, like I wanted to pick a global alert. I wanted to drop it down to a low, but I want to bring it back up to another higher severity if it meets these other criteria.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, that's a good, I had somebody that did that exact same thing. And I was like, well, I just wasted a bunch of hours. And I was like, yeah, that really sucks. I'm sorry. Because they thought it kind of worked in that opposite direction. And it's quite possible that the power filters that we're setting up will be able to handle some of that, add a little bit more criteria to this. I think in the future, global events are nice, but they're just not as customizable as we want them to be. So there's going to be some improvements in our platform that you can really customize the globals, and they're not just an all or nothing kind of thing.
I do have a question on conditional access. So I noticed that the alerts or the different types of not the alerts, but the events which you have. It has outside approved location, and that location is what you've identified as a whitelisted location in SaaS alerts, right? Yep. I have numerous clients. Most of my clients have conditional access in place already, which means Microsoft already knows what their approved locations are down to the employee level. If you've got 5 employees working in Indonesia, right? That's the conditional access policy for them. Now, what this does is I have to duplicate the exact same conditional access within SaaS to replicate that or to avoid seeing all those alerts, right? how is there no way for you guys to get that data from Microsoft directly and apply that conditional access at the account level within SaaS alerts?
As it stands today, currently,
Or how I would put it, at the org level, right?
Yeah.
The administrator, right? If I know that my org, which I'm creating here, already has conditional access in place, just create a simple checkbox, conditional access already in place. And that automatically removes a bunch of those events which are unnecessarily, kind of creating noise.
I agree. I think, and Anthony, did we had a discussion about this too, didn't we?
Yeah. So the level of granularity in that module is very, I'm not going to say it's going to be here on Tuesday, but it is coming soon. I expect you to see a whole lot more abilities of being able to push conditional access policies to clients, to individuals, or to your stack in this next quarter, because we're about 7 days off from being able to say that. There's a lot more abilities that we have that are going to be avalanching down on you. So KK, thanks for asking that. That is absolutely coming. And if kind of tying back to something you might have missed, because I saw you join just a couple minutes late, at the top of the hour, we were talking about some of the things that we see at a meta level. Ben can see a spray attack that attacks you and attacks Greg and attacks Amr. Even though each one of you only saw a single attack, we can see that attacking bad guy, bad IP, bad process across a whole range. Come see me next year, and I may be able to, and this is the plan, push conditional access policies back down that said, hey, we've seen this at a global level that these are some bad guy IPs. We want you to have these already in place, automatically updated and blocked in the background. So kind of tying all that together. We've got the groundwork in place now. Look for a whole bunch more to be added quite soon here in the next quarter. And then next year, we're going to expand upon those abilities.
And KK, just are you guys running, what is it? Roost or anything like that?
Sorry, come again? Running what?
Do you use Roost or anything?
No.
Okay. So one of the things that Roost requested of us to be able to do some cross things, like changes to our platform, was add the API ability to update whitelists. And so that is something that we can do with the API, but I think that's something that also Leron and we were talking about is that exact scenario as far as updating like IP address based on conditional access. But I will bubble that back up to him because that is a great suggestion and one that I would love to see as well.
Yeah, that would be really helpful because right now, just then generates a ton of noise for me, because I know that the guy's in its appropriate location, and yet, I see outside approved location alerts. So while on the topic of API, I do have one question, and this is something I brought up earlier. If I'm trying to integrate with SaaS alerts into my security platform, the API today, as it sits, allows me to pass in my account ID or key and an API key, right? And what it does is it dumps every single thing associated with every single organization to the caller of the API, right? I was asking if there's a possibility to add another key, meaning org ID, to the API call, so we can only get data for that specific organization, right? If I'm in a multi-tenancy security platform, my tenant, I have to build something in the middle to process the data from the API and then drop it into the tenant versus simply passing the org ID and just getting the data which I want, in a single call. Is that something which is on the roadmap at some point? Is that something you're considering at all?
Are you using the reports events for that endpoint?
Yeah.
So you can do customer IDs, but that's not what you're talking about.
That's my ID. That's my MSP's ID. I'm talking about the organization down to the org.
No, that should be your the customer ID should be right here. This is your customer ID.
Is it?
Yeah, which allows you, if you put that in there, that will pull only the events for this one specifically. You can generate that list as well from the reports customers. That will list everybody, and that will pull. So your ID is the partner ID. That's your kind
Oh,
of
that's partner
overarching.
ID.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then you have your regular ID. That's your customer ID. In this example, Dropbox dev. But yeah, and so yeah, you can definitely specify that. Try that and let me know if you have
Okay.
problems.
Well, I somehow might have missed that then, because
Oh,
I
no worries.
remember being told that the customer ID is my ID.
Mm.
Because in on the UI, you reference that as org ID, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah,
so
there's
that's
some
probably where the confusion's coming
there's
from.
some inconsistencies on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Totally. No, that's a good question.
No,
I
it's
didn't know
absolutely
if you
fair.
were
And it's,
pulling it from webhooks. I haven't played around with this so much, like the webhook portion of it, but I do know we can pull all the really good stuff from that reports event, and that will pull so much data into your system.
Yeah.
Yep.
solid question. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's just about everything every button you can click, everything you can do in the GUI can be pushed from your side via API in. So we do have some partners that have built some push and pulls and some puts and some gets to get a little more. It's a different presentation of the same data. We put the GUI together to try to be, usable by most everybody, especially those who don't have a dedicated team that has the depth of the engineering knowledge and the time to build out reports and the sort of analysis and sort of that. But as a reminder, folks, that's your data. It's all available in the APIs. And if you're working with Roost or BI or anything, that data is yours. You can always reach in there and pull that out or push changes back in.
Yeah, and there's
So
going to be an addition of the Unify to this as well, I believe. And I think Fortify's on the roadmap as well as far as this. I know they're working on that too. But
it's
Unify
kind
we
of funny
had
what you
we had
go ahead.
somebody that said that they didn't want to make the connection between the RMM and ours because it just, it just trust and everything, making sure that we had
Sure.
almost limited data. And so they wanted a Unify API that pushes the data to our system. So our Adam is working on that now.
It's a nice heads up. I appreciate that, Ben.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I've talked to our devs before, and they said, "Oh yeah, anything that you can do in our system, like I think like 90% of the things you can do in our GUI can be done through the API. It's just a matter of the right syntax." Sometimes that throws me. Like if any of you
Excellent.
figure out how, and this is just me, like personally, if we have a respond API, right? I can pull and this is just me projecting, but I would love it if any of you guys figure out how to create API rules from this, let me know because I've been banging my head against this one, and I don't want to pull any time away from dev because it's just kind of the side thing, but this is a great way to make changes to rules too. Yeah. Yeah, I
Excellent.
need to be a
And
web
it's kind of
expert.
funny. I was thinking about this morning, Ben, is the complexity of the platform has grown so much, even in just
Yes.
the last year, that, yeah, sometimes the knowledge base is catching up to the GUI, which is catching up to the abilities, wash, rinse, and repeat. So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly as sort of our friend Stephen noticed that there's in the chat, there's something odd. We're seeing two different events that look like it's just a typo. So I've opened up a ticket with support. We'll take a look at that, Stephen. Thanks for picking up on that. So yeah, if you guys do find anything that there's a disconnect between the documentation, my guys in support, they are fanatics about that. I've asked them to make a change whenever they get around to it, and 9 seconds later, they've updated that because they want the knowledge base and all the GUIs and all of the annotations and pop-outs and flyouts to be contextual and helpful and not be distracting.
So
And I'm going to
email
wait.
external versus external file sharing. Is
Nope.
that what the question was?
No, it's take a look in Slack on support, buddy.
Oh,
There's they're almost identical. I think it's just a email external with no space, email external with a leading space. So
I see email internal and external.
Yeah, I
I'll
wasn't
share
sure if it
event.
was related, but yeah, I have noticed some things improving, like the, kind of the organization listing and the reports, getting cleaned up and things sorted and stuff. So,
Yep.
maybe it's just a new item.
Yeah, our
Appreciate
motto
that,
has always
Stephen.
been, was it progress over perfection, which
Mhm.
yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I've had to change the way I think. It's like I'm making progress. Is it perfect today? No, but will it be perfect tomorrow? Probably.
Probably, yeah. That's a
Yeah, I've pointed out a couple of typos in our system. It's pretty funny.
Enrique, how can I help you, man?
Want to apologize for leaving my mic open. They're kicking me out of the office. But so this was a Microsoft, it was picked up by the beta module for Defender.
Cool.
And I think there's an issue with the mapping on the ticket because it opened the wrong ticket from a previous event, but I'll open up that with support. Basically,
Yeah,
it says
absolutely.
password spray.
Oh, cool.
Oh, they're doing some neat stuff with that. Yeah. It's funny. We were talking about who's using which applications, how many people on our platform are monitoring Google or monitoring IT Glue. And even though it's in beta, the folks looking at Defender is starting to be a groundswell of a lot of our partners. So I don't have a lot of insight. Enrique, you probably are seeing as much as we have seen internally about what they're actually doing there and what they're actually able to alert on. Um, but if anybody wants to join that beta and is interested in seeing where we're going with that, reach out to your account managers. We've got a lot of interest there. Yeah, good luck with that, Sam. Tell him. Okay, Sam just made a joke about it. That's a light joke about needing global admin credentials and getting them from people, and that's something that we're always afraid to give away the keys to our kingdom, and that's understandable, 100% understandable. Which is why in the platform you can generate that link. Imagine you're prospecting and your potential client doesn't want to give you those global admin creds. You can give them a link that will put them in the platform. We pass those credentials through. And a lot of my partners have been using that. They'll grab an incognito tab and generate that link. And Ben's going to demonstrate if I wanted to monitor something for somebody, I can hit add new application.
Yeah.
So Ben, this
And get
basically,
stupid Cloudflare. No, and when I want to monitor an application, you see at the top middle there, I can generate a link and then email that link to myself or to a client. And a lot of my partners, when they're onboarding, they'll just jump into an incognito mode, grab that link. That way, they're not dragging those credentials around anything except that one incognito session, which they're going to kill the minute they're onboarding. Now,
And
obviously, we have areas like
I like to use those
Defender.
customer links just for convenience,
yeah.
just to do it in a different window even. It's good that way.
100%.
So there is a
100%.
little bit of a goof that they're going to fix. So you have to have it connected. Like we added this recently. So that if you have an organization connected with Manage and you want to put the Respond and Fortify on, you can generate those now through this, but the Manage has to be already established. So what they want it to be is so that you can come in here and say Manage, Respond, and Fortify, and generate the URL. And then, but right now it's Manage connected first, and then you can do the rest of these. So does that kind of make sense?
Manage is the thing which everything else home runs back to for database purposes. So once the client is established and in monitoring and manage, which is organizations, then you can start hanging other things off of there.
Yeah, that's one of the new additions they made here recently was the ability, because before you couldn't generate those URLs. You had to be like, okay, well, let me give me your admin credentials and I can make that connection for you. But now you can generate those links just simply from this screen and Defender.
Speaking of links, I haven't done a request for it yet, but maybe I'll throw it out because I would mention the reports. One of the things that's tricky about those is the links are only good for 7 days. And so sometimes we might want to send something and, look back at, an old report or something like that. And it's not really that easy when you kind of lose that link almost, right away. We tried it with kind of sending the scheduled reports going into one of our channels, and we could kind of go back and see, grab the report. But by the end of the month, you've kind of missed it.
Yeah. That is a good Anthony. I know what you're gonna say.
Can we make at least 30 or an option? I don't know.
When you generate a report, and I don't know about automated, but I know when you generate a report. So yeah, any of these.
Here.
Let's see. I don't think you can do it here, Ben. And that's a disconnect, Stephen, that because you can do it if I run a report and then I share it with a client, I can then define whether it's 7 days or 30 days or what have you.
So
right, but on the delivery, you're gonna get something, a message that has the name of the report, but the link itself, the access code, and last 7 days, I think, just across the
do
board.
This for me. Go run a report. Yep, I run a SaaS cyber for the last week on somebody. Anything? Yes, SaaS risk. Perfect. Now share that report. See right here, I can modify that when I
okay, so you can manually bump that up, but not when you schedule. Yeah, can we have that on the schedule page?
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, that suggestion I believe is already on our roadmap, but I will go thumbs it up. And anybody who's active in our in that community, any of the sign partners, they can come in here and look for. A lot.
Cool, thank
There's
you.
a lot of reports.
There's a lot of reports, and it's kind of funny. It's the reports were like the second thing we did. We knew that getting this data out of an engineer's hands and into a client's hands was always going to be a challenge. And so the reports is something that Amanda works on constantly to polish and update. And as I said, there's some new reports coming that I think you guys are going to find value in. Yeah.
I'm going to try to, I think it's set up in a way where we can even deep link into a report. And so I want to see how to do that, and then just say, here's a link to last month's report, and it has the dates just in it.
Stephen, would love to see where you get with that. Yeah. Let's continue that conversation.
Might be able to.
Yeah.
And just one quick follow-up on that. The reason why reporting has those links, why they have to expire and everything else, is we just never wanted there to be, by accident or by maybe a malicious internal employee or anything, the ability to do a syslog dump of everything from within the GUI. I mean, we would just, that's where it's
they're very valuable, real valuable information. So
there is. Yeah. Got a few minutes left here, and it looks like Mr. Johnson, is that Wes? Says remedial question for recommended action. That is a great question. The question is this: in the alerts, when they flow into your PSA or when you look at them here in the GUI, there's a recommended action, and the recommended action, if you're looking at analysis or anything like that, is going to be what we thought would be valuable to a tier 1 engineer who hadn't seen that alert in a while. And some of these are fairly esoteric. Some of these alerts, out of the hundreds we have, you guys may not see them for months or years at a time. And so that little information button there says, hey, here's a recommended action. And that one's broken. That's beautiful, Ben. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go find, that's good. So this is the basics. And Mr. Johnson had a great question that has a horribly dynamic answer. Is he wanted to say, if I understand this, Wes, or Mr. Johnson, I'd like my recommendations pulled out of IT Glue for that, so that my junior engineers know what my internal processes look like, what my company standards are. Did I get that right, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
it exactly. And
Yeah.
it was one of those things, we started to have the alerts hit our various pods that support different clients,
Mhm.
and they got fixated on the recommendation
Oh.
portion. And it's like, we wrote SOPs on this, like, and directed them there, but it was one of those things to where, I was like, all right, I'll ask. I couldn't find where to customize those, and that's why I was just wondering, is there a way, am I missing something or what?
No, you're not, Wes. That's been asked before. Logan, let's take that
Really?
offline, because
That's
I
a good
think
one.
there's, well, it has been asked before, and so I know we've discussed this with Leron, but it's probably been 2 years. I would love to give you guys the option to maybe not have that piece of
Yeah,
data flow
that was my second
in the
question.
ticket. Exactly. If I can just remove that, then your guys are used to saying, okay, they have to go do a manual lookup, but at
Right.
least they say when this particular kind of alert comes in, that's on page 62 of my documentation. Yeah. So great feedback. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard that request. We need to revisit that.
That's a good one. I
And
like that.
yeah, it was a huge amount of database push and pull, which is why it was just simply a mountain too tall to climb in the beginning.
Hmm.
Because do I pull it from IT glue or other documentation, or it's I have to be able to on the platform to build it to be as universal an answer as possible. And I think binary, deliver SaaS alerts recommendations or don't, is a great place to start.
Yep, I'd support that.
Excellent.
I know
Great
Adam wants to
questions today,
redo
guys.
the PSA, the complete, like he wants to completely redo the PSA integration.
Oh, he is.
And
Yeah, he is.
and we've made some, and this sort of customization right here is exactly kind of like what I think that should be done throughout the entire integration, as far as we
Yeah,
pick
the
the
tickets.
fields. Yeah, you choose the fields, where it goes, what order it's in there, and if it's in there at all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we could have a quiet mode and an expert mode. Oh. Yeah, I think you're right, and that's something that, guys, just for the audience here, we've talked about that. For any particular alert, sometimes I get 70 or 80 data fields from the applications. Think Microsoft. How many of those do you really want in front of your engineer's face? That can be overwhelming in a single ticket. So it's the balance between that, do we give them enough or too much? And we've tried to kind of balance that out. And it's never going to be a perfect answer, but I kind of like where you're going, Ben. If we allowed that same level of granularity, you guys can make your own call, and if there's something specific that you always want to know, let's make sure that's in your face. Last 5 minutes or so, guys. I know a couple of us have a hard stop at the top of the hour. Anything else that's top of mind? Everyone, I really appreciate your input. We love that kind of feedback about what's going right and what's going wrong. I hope we've given you a little guidance today. Reach out to your account managers if there's anything you want to follow up with Defender and Beta or anything like that, questions about our GDPR presence, any of that sort of stuff. Look for a whole bunch of changes coming by the time we speak again in 2 weeks. I think there's about 35 new polishes that our dev team is working on, as well as the continued stuff with the again, the Defender and some of the other efforts we've got there, as well as Ben, what's the file sharing one that's getting ready to go into beta? Ignite or Ignite, or however you pronounce
Ignite,
it.
yeah.
I know some of our folks in the civil engineering space use that heavily. And so if you guys have any interest in being part of that beta, reach out to your account manager. But that one is going to be hitting beta very soon. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. I'll give you 5 minutes before your next meeting. And I look forward to chatting with you all again.
See you guys.
Ben,
Thanks all.
quick question.
Sure.
Do we have anything pending from our side?
Does Enrique owe anybody anything?
Enrique own
Just
anybody
Ben, but I
anything?
completed a couple of weeks ago.
I know. Well, I think you've done pretty good. Let's see. You would not believe the amount of meetings I have tomorrow. That is ridiculous, but
All
it's
the
good
meetings.
because
No-
people are responding, and I really appreciate that.
No hurry. Just wanted to make sure you did get, and there's nothing from my side.
Let's see here. You need an onboarding meeting. So did you schedule something already?
I sent the form and then I was waiting, I guess, to hear back from
Okay.
someone.
So our system should have emailed you an onboarding invite.
I do not
Let me
believe
look.
I got it.
Well, let's do this. I can fix that for you. I will shoot it over to you on an email, and you just need to pick a time.
Awesome.
It's just a little Zoom link. And so what the cool thing is my cohort, Aaron, which you don't usually see him because he works like second shift. He has, I don't know what time zone you're in, but he has like
Central.
Okay. So he has like time between 4 p.m. Eastern all the way to like 11 or midnight.
That
So
works perfect for
I
me.
know, right?
I work to midnight, so that's
Okay, well,
perfect.
cool. So you can stay up half the night than him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's been a godsend because he knows the platform really well because he was like from me. He came from an MSP that used it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah,
yes.
send me the invite or the email and I'll book from there.
Yeah, most definitely. Talk to you soon.
Perfecto. Thank you guys.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.